Charles with the Greensboro Public Library. Today we're visiting a very special place, an animal hospital. You'll meet some nice pets and the people who take care of them.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Talbot. I'm a veterinarian here in Greensboro, North Carolina. And today what I'd like to talk with you all about is choosing a new pet for your family. So there's a lot of different things to consider when you're thinking of adding a new member to your family and getting a new pet. You need to think about who's going to take care of this pet. Is this going to be one person's responsibility? Is this going to be the whole family's responsibility? Because we need to have those things kind of set up before we get the new pet so there's no confusion once we bring that pet home as to whose responsibility it is to feed them or take them outside or clean the litter box or some of the things that we'll talk about as we go through some of the different options for a new pet. Other things to consider: how much space is this new pet going to take up? Is this a little bitty thing that you could fit in any place, an apartment or anything like that? Or is this a bigger creature that's going to need some room to move around? How much time are we going to take to spend with our new pet? Is this somebody that we really want to make a member of our family and we're going to be spending quite a bit of time with them? Or is this something that we've got pretty busy lives and maybe we don't want such a big time commitment and maybe it's just something fun on the side that just needs a little bit of our time here and there? How much does this new pet cost? The pet itself oftentimes has somewhat of a price tag, but there's ongoing care costs, buying food for your pet, sometimes bedding for your pet, veterinary care. I have to bring up, I am a veterinarian, so that's a very important part of the pet's care. And then what are we looking to get out of this new addition? Is this going to be our new best friend, or again, is this just going to be somewhat of a little bit of a hobby or something to kind of keep us entertained every once in a while? And then the last thing to think about is what kind of time commitment in the long term are we willing to make with this pet? Some pets can live for a very long time. Other pets are only going to live for a couple of years or so. That may be a better option if you've never had a pet before, trying to figure out if you really want to make that bigger time commitment with another pet. Let's talk about dogs first. Dogs are a big category because there are so many different types of dogs. But dogs in general tend to need kind of the same things. The first thing to think about is they are very social creatures. There's not a type of animal that you can just kind of say hi to once a day and then leave them be the rest of the day. They want to be with you. They want to interact with you. And so being with that dog, that new family member, if you decide to get a dog, is going to be really important. And then we have to think about, again, who's taking care of the dog? Is it just one person that's going to be responsible for feeding the dog, taking the dog out, making sure they're brushed, or even taking them to the groomers if it's a long-haired dog, things like that? We want to have that established before we bring our dog home. As far as a time commitment to this dog, even beyond sort of the day-to-day time commitment, dogs can live a pretty long time. 10 to 12 years on average is how much a dog will live. Some smaller breed dogs can easily get into the 13 to 15 years of age. Unfortunately, some of our bigger dogs may only live to be 8 to 10, but again, on average, 10 to 12 is what we say is their lifespan. So that's a pretty big commitment. If you think about how old you are now, think about how old you will be by the time that dog may pass away. Are you going to be still living at home? Are you maybe going to be in college? We need to think about these things before we add a dog to our family. Dogs for the day-to-day care require a big time commitment. Again, they're social creatures. They don't want to be left alone all the time. Some dogs can live outside safely in a fenced-in yard and things like that, so we don't have to worry so much about having to take them out frequently. But even those dogs want to be with us. They want to play with us, and they need those social interactions. But those are all a bunch of things to consider when you're thinking about maybe adding in a dog. They are a bigger time commitment. They are a bigger financial commitment. So may or may not be the best pet for you. So let's move on to cats. They're another major animal that is owned as a pet in the United States. Cats are a little bit kind of a step down from dogs as far as the amount of care they need on a day-to-day basis, but can still provide quite a bit of that social interaction and that bond that people are looking for oftentimes when they're talking about getting a new pet. Again, same sorts of things that we need to think about when we're talking about getting or maybe adding in a cat to our household. Who's going to take care of it? Space-wise, cats are pretty small creatures, so oftentimes they do just fine in a small apartment. How much time are we willing to spend? Cats tend to not need quite the time investment as dogs. And then, kind of what are we looking to get out of this new pet? Again, cats do provide that bond with their owners, and they do have some social interaction, but it's not quite the time commitment as what we might have with a dog. Long-term time commitment with a cat is going to be a bit longer than a dog. They tend to average their lifespan in the 12 to 16 years of age, but I have certainly seen cats into their early 20s. Is this something that we're willing to make a possibly 20-year commitment to? So all of those things are things to consider about, if we're thinking about adding a cat in. So the next category of pets is kind of a big category, and I sort of label this a pocket pet. And basically what that is kind of any of these little critters that you might actually be able to fit in your pocket. So anything from a guinea pig, a mouse, a rat, a hamster, a gerbil, not quite a pocket pet, but even thinking about something like a rabbit or a ferret. Most of these creatures are going to live in a cage, a small to medium-sized cage of some kind where they're fairly self-sufficient in there. And then it would be something where you could kind of come in and while they're directly under your supervision, take them out, play with them, etc. And then, either at the end of the night or when you're done playing with them, depending on which of those creatures you're talking about, they go back into their cage where they're safe and confined. So oftentimes one of those can be a great first pet to see how much of a commitment you're willing to make. Do you get this first pet and they're fun, but you know what, now we're not so interested in them anymore and we still need to take care of them, but maybe after that pet passes, maybe we realize that we weren't quite ready for that dog or cat or that bigger time commitment. Maybe you're not even up for having even that little bit of a time commitment to clean out the cage and things like that of a pocket pet. Something like a fish. Again, a bit of a cost investment to get the right tank or bowl. You might have to do a little bit of research or reading about how to take care of your fish. But that also can be a really great first pet. Another category of pet is birds. Birds are, again, kind of like dogs. There's lots and lots of different birds. You can have small birds. You can have pretty large birds. You can have birds that live 30 or 40 years. You can have birds that only live, a few or several years. A lot of people who own birds do get can really bond with their bird, especially some of these ones that live for a good length of time. So again, a bit of an investment to start with to get the cage and everything like that. But then not too much upkeep, to kind of keep up with them and time commitment and things like that. So the length of time these birds live, you really need to be careful about what kind of birds you get if this is going to be a first pet and you're not sure about the time commitment you're willing to make. And then my last group of animals is kind of a really big, broad category of everything else. So anything from a chinchilla to a snake to a bearded dragon, to a hedgehog, or there's all kinds of different pets out there. A lot of the pets that I just mentioned are probably not the best first pet to have. Especially things like reptiles and amphibians are very, very different than us as humans, which are mammals, same as dogs and cats, so we're a little bit more similar to them, and inherently we feel like we know them a little bit better. Amphibians and reptiles are just very different in the care that they need. The amount of water, the amount of sunlight, the amount of minerals in their diet. Again, I kind of would discourage you as far as a first pet from thinking about one of those. But if you do decide that whatever you're getting that's definitely what you want and you want to do it, I highly encourage you to do your research and really learn a lot about that pet before you ever purchase that pet and bring it into the home. Similarly, chinchillas, hedgehogs, things like that. Not the most commonly owned things, so it's not like, it's as easy as just going to PetSmart or Petco or anything like that and just buying yourself a bag of dog food. There's more involved to their upkeep and care and things like that. Snakes, again, they do fall into that reptile category. So from the time commitment standpoint, snakes oftentimes don't need to eat but every few days to a couple of weeks. So it's a pretty small time commitment, but their care is a little bit more unique, and I would definitely encourage you to do a good bit of research before considering bringing a snake into your home as your first pet. So that's a big kind of overview of a lot of different kinds of animals. Hopefully I've given you some thoughts to think about if you're thinking about adding in that new pet to your family. Do your research, do your homework, make sure you know about that pet before you get one, know what's involved with having that once you do have it. Because it is a time commitment and we owe it to these creatures if we're going to have them as our pets to take really good care of them.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brooke Townsend. I'm a veterinarian here at Sedgefield Animal Hospital in Greensboro, North Carolina. Today we're going to talk a little bit about kids and pets, specifically dogs, and how to meet a dog when you're out walking around on trails or in your neighborhood, and how we can also help prevent any dog bite situations that may occur. Dogs are wonderful pets. Kids love them, and it's wonderful to be able to meet other dogs when you're out on the trails. So today we're going to have a little bit of fun seeing what to do and what not to do. And I've got Shelly here to help me out, and my daughter Eva, and this is Ragnar. Many kids have pets at home, and so they're used to being around a dog, and when they first see a dog that they don't know, their instant reaction is to want to run up and pet them and sometimes hug them, right? But some dogs are not used to kids and the movements of kids. Kids are very fast, and sometimes their voices are higher pitched than a dog may be used to, and they have a lot of quick, sudden movements. When you're first meeting a dog, what are some things that you should do to meet them?
Well, you should ask the owner first, and then you should crouch down, but not too low because they could bite, and then let them sniff your hand.
So can you demonstrate how you would hold out your hand for them to meet you? So if they want to sniff you, it's good to hold your hand a little bit low, not come over the top of their head, because that's kind of a threatening position. Also, then they can't see your hand, and so they're more likely to jump up. But holding your hand down low, curling your fingers in a little bit so they're not sticking out, and let them sniff if they want to. And then when you do go to pet them, how should you pet them?
You should pet them on the sides.
Pet them on their sides or their chest. And should you run up and give them a hug?
No, that is gonna end up bad.
Some dogs don't like to be hugged, so it's a good idea just to give them pets first. Now, Ragnar is a big teddy bear, and he does like hugs, but not all dogs do. So as a pet owner, it is your responsibility to make sure that you keep kids safe when they come up to pet your dog. If a child approaches you, they should ask to pet the dog, but if they don't, it's fine to say, my dog isn't comfortable, or hold on a second while I get him under control. But with your dog, you always want to make sure that they're listening to you. So I don't recommend flexi leashes. That's the first big no-no, is on a flexi leash, they've got so much room that they're not listening to you when they're at that end of that leash. So go ahead and walk them on a short, 6 foot or shorter leash. Make sure they're up next to you, and if your dog knows how to sit, go ahead and ask them to get into the sitting position before the child comes over. So that way you know that your dog is listening to you. If you want to be honest, if a child comes up and asks to pet your dog, and your dog is sometimes okay with kids, but sometimes not, a stranger on the road is not the time to train your dog. You want to go ahead and just tell them, you know what, my dog isn't always good with kids, and maybe today may not be the best time.
Can I pet your doggy?
Yes, you can. Ragnar, can you sit? Sit down, buddy. Good job.